This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Lewis Hamilton almost drove former teammate Valtteri Bottas to the brink of retiring from F1 during their time together at Mercedes. The Finn has confessed. Bottas, now at Alfa Romeo, joined Mercedes when they needed to fill the void left by Nico Rosberg's retirement days after winning his maiden World Championship in 2016. Between 2017 and 2021, the 32-year-old was unable to get the better of Lewis Hamilton, despite being in what was arguably the most dominant car on the F1 grid. This was made most evident by the stats of the pair. The Briton won 4 titles with 50 wins, 42 pole positions and 78 podiums during those aforementioned 5 seasons. In contrast, Bottas had 10 wins, 20 poles and 58 podiums. Hamilton also outscored the Finn by nearly 600 points during that period. Having now assumed the role of team leader at Alfa Romeo, as opposed to playing second fiddle to Lewis Hamilton at the Silver Arrows, Bottas reflected on how he came close to quitting due to Hamilton's dominance. During a conversation on the Motorsport Magazine podcast, Bottas said, "At the end of 2018, I almost stopped. It was so close, just because of the fact that I couldn't understand and take the fact that I couldn't beat Lewis Hamilton in those 2 years. I put so much pressure on myself towards the end of 18, especially when I started to have the supporting role in the team. I really couldn't take it. I really struggled. It was not fun." Bottas then went on to reveal how he got over the disappointment of his first 2 seasons with Mercedes, adding, "The human mind is strange in a way that sometimes you go into dark places. You lose the joy in things, and I just completely lost the joy of F1 and racing in F1. I was almost angry at F1. It's weird, but I just needed some time off and think of the big picture. And then I realised that, okay, it's actually a pretty cool sport, and I still have great opportunities ahead of me. So I would be silly not to take them." Valtteri Bottas admitted to taking the step back and going on a break to South America to recharge himself in 2019 in what he calls his strongest campaign against Lewis Hamilton. On the Motorsport Magazine podcast, the Finnish driver said, "I decided to go on a break in South America somewhere and just try not to think about F1 at all, and just try to find the will and the joy for the sport and the motivation. I found it. It was like a click. Probably in mid-January, I decided, okay, let's do this. I can still do it. So I managed to get myself together and found the joy of driving again. Immediately, the results were much better than in 18. The Finns started the 2019 season with a win in Melbourne. Squarespace is an incredibly rich publishing platform where you can create professional websites and domains quickly and easily. Using the Squarespace templates, which have been crafted by their world-class design team, they are fully customizable to fit your brand perfectly. Build a page using pre-designed structures for specific purposes such as contact, about, blog, portfolio, products, and more. Page elements are arranged to quickly create professional layouts to showcase your content. Add or remove blocks to create a custom look. Struggling to connect with your audiences? Use the Squarespace Members feature. Connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated, members-only content. Manage your members and send email communications all in one easy-to-use platform. Create a community on your Squarespace website with a fully integrated commenting system that supports threaded comments, replies, and likes. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/slipstream to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, and 6 consecutive podium places right through to Monte Carlo. Ultimately, though, he ran out of steam while Hamilton maintained the charge. Bottas memorably marked his victory in 2019 with a radio message. To whom it may concern, fuck you, which he admits in the podcast was as much aimed at himself and the negativity he had allowed to creep in as it was to any of the critics who said he should not be racing in what was F1's most coveted race seat. Now, when I look back at it, it was a great school for me. I learned a lot about myself, to give myself more of a leash, not to be too hard on myself, but learned so much about everything that I'm really glad it happened. Those kind of moments, I just want to tell people to always look at the big picture in life. If you feel a bit anxious in life, take a step back. There's always so much more to get if you don't give up. 2019 was probably my best season so far, especially against Lewis. I won quite a few races, and especially until halfway through the season, I was sometimes even leading the championship, so it was a pretty strong year. But then, just Lewis's consistency and performances overall for the whole season, I couldn't match. The relationship between Hamilton and Bottas was one that was often discussed, and rumours were rife that the pair weren't particularly close, something that both have regularly tried to dismiss. However, the relationship between Hamilton and new teammate George Russell appears to have got off to a good start. Lewis Hamilton has claimed that he has been the best teammate he has ever been for George Russell following the 24-year-old's move to the Silver Arrows at the beginning of the calendar. And his comments have shed light on why Valtteri Bottas recently admitted he lost his love for F1 while at Mercedes. Hamilton has shed light on Bottas's comments by admitting that he had a much better teammate to Russell. "I don't look at my season too often and assess. In a sense of judgment, I mean, I'm working as hard as I can, staying positive," Hamilton said. "We've come off the back of a difficult year, and I'd like to think I'm the best teammate I've ever been to George, but also to the engineers, all the mechanics and everyone working at the factory, and trying to keep everyone's energy high. I am trying a lot of different experimental things on the car to help us get the data and move forwards. While yes, it's not been ideal on some weekends, it's often set us back because we lost a session or two, but that's okay, because eventually we'll get there, and I'm proud to have been part of that process." The Brit has largely had to play second fiddle to Russell this season, having finished behind his teammates several times. It is a huge change from when he was partnering with Bottas, having won the title every season aside from one he worked with him. While things do appear to be improving for Mercedes, with Hamilton and Russell finishing third and fourth respectively at the Canadian Grand Prix, one man who hasn't been impressed with Hamilton is Bernie Ecclestone. Bernie Ecclestone has fired shots at Lewis Hamilton and has sensationally suggested the Mercedes ace lied about his back pain in the aftermath of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Hamilton has struggled to assert his dominance on the track this season, as his car has struggled with porpoising issues, which arose after teams were forced to redesign their vehicles in the wake of regulation changes over the winter. Following the Azerbaijan race earlier this month, in which Hamilton was jolted up and down in his car, the 37-year-old appeared to be in huge discomfort as he nursed a back injury after getting out of his vehicle. And the veteran later insisted his pain was 100 times worse than it looks. But Ecclestone is having none of it. George Russell is taller, and if it was going to happen to anyone, it would have happened to him. There was a bit of Nigel Mansell about it. At least with Nigel, he would get out of the car, rub his left leg as if he had broken it. Next moment, it would be his right leg. Meanwhile, Ecclestone also hit out at Hamilton's fashion sense, accusing him of not helping George Russell at all this season, and claimed that Mercedes chief Toto Wolff could even try to thrash out a deal for the Brit to leave the Silver Arrows before the end of his contract, which is due to expire at the end of next year. Toto is getting a bit fed up with Lewis, the 91-year-old told the Daily Mail. "I don't think he's trying, do you?" Let's put it another way. Lewis doesn't seem bothered about losing. It's not like him. He has a competitive nature, but he's taking losing a bit easy for my liking. Lewis might sell his position to Toto. "This is how much I am getting. I'll step down and give me half of what I would get. Toto can go and do one of his magic deals, offer someone less money and keep £20 million. Nobody needs to tell Toto this because he has already thought of it. Lewis would probably stop under those circumstances." Hamilton has been outshone by his new Silver Arrows teammate this year and is 2 places behind the 24-year-old in the standings. And Ecclestone has questioned whether the veteran is having a positive impact on the former Williams driver. "I didn't think Russell, was that good, but he has done an excellent job," continued the business magnate. "I am surprised. Or is it a case of Lewis is doing a bad job? A bit of both? I don't think Hamilton, is actively helping George. I don't think he's doing anything. I don't think he cares too much. He's not prepared to put the effort into winning that he did." And Ecclestone hasn't reserved his criticism of Hamilton for his driving, as he has also taken a bizarre swipe at the 37-year-old's fashion sense. "I don't know what he's doing dressing up in all those funny clothes," added Ecclestone. "Has he a deal to do it? Is it to get noticed? maybe that's it. Heading into the 2022 F1 British GP, Valtteri Bottas is 8th in the World Drivers' Championship standings, having picked up 46 points out of the 51 points scored by Alfa Romeo this season. George Russell is 4th on 111 points, and Lewis Hamilton is in 6th place on 77 points. Squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/slipstream to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.